Before we start, there is a new video on Moistski Live, and I'll be streaming on Twitch tonight at 8:30 PM GMT, both linked down below. Today I want to continue the discussion of trans-related rights and issues. For this, we're going to use something that took place in Connecticut back in the middle of February, where 3 high school girls, being represented by their mothers, filed a lawsuit over a policy that allows transgender athletes to participate in sports based on their gender identity. This is quite an interesting and heavily divisive one, but for this we do have the fantastic opportunity to talk about other trans athletes. Let's start with, how about we talk about the transgender MMA fighter? You know, Fallon Foxx, who is so good. Fallon Foxx fractured the skull of one of her opponents. No biological advantages there, right? How about the female cyclist who is absolutely annihilating records? How about the female weightlifters who have destroyed the world records held by the biological counterpart for decades? I could continue this if you like, but I think my point is quite clear. But actually, we should strip that all away for a second, because this should never be what it is in the first place. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. There's one other one I want to mention. Martina Navratilova, a female tennis player, former, one of the greatest in fact, spoke out against trans athletes competing in women's sports and of course by extension the men's, but we rarely see or hear of that. I can't imagine why. Many people got very cross and called her a boomer and a transphobe. This continued with Sharon Davis, a also former athlete, who got a lot of criticism for saying the exact same thing and stuck true to her word. Dame Kelly Holmes, a former Olympian, and Paula Radcliffe, the same one I think peed in the middle of a road, yes, both defended Sharon Davis because they're right. And this is actually something mentioned in the lawsuit in question. They do reference the fact that these particular athletes are denying biological women the right and chance to compete, and in fact are shattering their dreams because they're just destroying them. I'm not going to include Caster Semenya in this discussion. That's tricky. Now back to these particular students. In the lawsuit, it is claimed that the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Commission's policy is a violation of Title IX. What is Title IX? Well, I've covered this many times on this channel. I'm not going to be addressing the dear colleague letter, Obama, you should be ashamed of yourself. Title IX became federal law in 1972. It states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Which makes this quite tricky, because then we come to the debate of biological sex and gender identity. Some will say they are the same thing, others will say, because they're trying to be a bit more middle grounded, they are not the same thing, therefore they should not be conflated. I have yet to get to the real issue here, and we'll get to it soon, I promise. Some have said that cases like this is an attack on trans rights. This is just further proof Trump is trying to erode at trans rights, something which many believe is being reinforced by a Georgia school district that reversed transgender-friendly bathroom policies after receiving death threats. Clearly Georgia's not ready yet for whatever this sign is here. I don't get it. In the lawsuit, there are 2 athletes mentioned by name. They are transgender athletes called Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood, who began competing in the 2017 track season and brought home 15 women's state championship titles, with Terry Miller saying in a statement posted on the ACLU website, "The more we are told that we don't belong and should be ashamed of who we are, the fewer opportunities we have to participate in sports at all." Records for the female track athletes from 2017 to 2019 show that Miller and Yearwood competed in 85 competitions, high-level competitions no less. Clearly the opportunities were there for you, because you earned it? That's a debate for others much smarter than me. Miller continued with the statement by then comparing trans athletes to black girls from sports who are being excluded, and of course the policing of female athletes' bodies. I would like to now tell you now, Terry Miller, please don't use false equivalences. They are nothing alike. They really aren't. I'm undoubtedly going to have many people in the comments to this video tell me the key biological differences between men and women, even those that are trans who have transitioned years ago, holding advantages to this day over their biological female counterparts. I have already explained it with Foxx, and that cyclist, and those weightlifters. They just annihilate. Didn't Zuby compete in an event after saying he identified as female? I believe he did, all the way back in February of 2019. So, yeah, this video pretty much, yeah. I know many call him a boomer. Please get generation right if you're going to use one of those insults. If it's an insult at all, I don't care. Call me a boomer, it doesn't matter in the slightest, really, does it? It's just a bloody... So on to the major point of all of this, actually. The one thing that I didn't talk about that actually bugs me more than anything else. Yesterday I discussed the fact that we're not able in the United Kingdom, even with our NHS, we're not able to fully understand and properly correctly diagnose those that identify as transgender. We're failing, and many are turning their backs on their identity. They're walking away, they've been misdiagnosed, they've gone too far, or they're doing something harmful to themselves because we haven't got it right. If the NHS is so good, and let's say it is for a moment, and they're not getting it right, how are the Americans doing it with your healthcare system? Air quotes around that, if you will. No offense to you, but I do not truly believe any of the students that have been or identify as transgender have been diagnosed or have been properly dealt with in the sense of making sure they are on the correct path. You chose the words gender identity, which means it's highly likely these children are not transitioning at all, but are just saying they are this, respect it, which means the biological advantages will be there regardless. Then there's the additional problem, and it's actually the one I take more issue with anyway, and it is that it is again a child transitioning. Teenager, still a child, transitioning. Are you mental? There were debates yesterday in the comments about when someone should be allowed to do so. Should it be after the brain has fully developed at 25, possibly older? That debate does depend on many factors. Or should it be whenever they want? Try and work that one out. It's not the easiest, and it is quite exhausting trying to work it out. Understandably with this case, a number of groups, charities and boards have gotten involved. This will get a lot more interesting. At present, the Glastonbury Public Schools Board of Education involved in this particular case are not commenting. The Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference, yeah, they've said that the policy complies with state and federal law, and that's all they're saying on this. The American Civil Liberties Union believe that efforts to undermine Title IX by claiming it doesn't apply to a subset of girls will ultimately hurt all students, and compromise the work of ending the long legacy of sex discrimination in sports, conflating again sex with gender, and of course forgetting trans men. Shocker. I can't imagine again why. With all of this, I am very much interested to know what you think. I'm going to link this article down below that I've been referencing for this video with the Connecticut students. I'm also going to link Foxx, the cyclist whose name I forgot many times, along with Zuby and a couple other things. By all means, look at it, draw your own conclusions. I don't mind. Please do, though, tell me what you think about all this in the comments down below. Do you believe this is an attack on trans rights? Or do you believe this is actually something reasonable that needs addressing? I tend to think it needs addressing. Anyway, if I don't see you tonight over on Twitch, I hope you'll have a fantastic Tuesday. And thank you all for listening.